Hey guys, welcome back. We're going to continue our series on the civil rights movement, all within this fourth quarter atmosphere. Last time we talked about how the civil rights movement started. We looked at Rosa Parks refusing to get off the bus and the Montgomery bus boycott. We talked about Plessy versus Ferguson and how that was really the start of the Jim Crow laws and separation, separate but equal segregation, and how Brown versus Board of Education really initially challenged that. So, just to dive in a little bit deeper, we'll start off on slide 562, and we're going to look at Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Now, I know you guys have learned about Martin Luther King Jr. your entire lives. My 6 year old, as secluded as we are, his lessons from his teacher are about Martin Luther King. Now, here's his book. See, there's the book my kid's reading, Martin Luther King Jr. So it is important, and you've talked about it, and you know who this guy is. But my goal is to kind of put this deity, this guy that you've always heard about, really into context. So after the Montgomery bus boycott, which was really successful, um, Martin Luther King Jr. becomes really the face of the civil rights movement. He becomes very loved and hated all at the same times. Uh, you know, blacks in the South and North love him. Whites in the South hate him. Now he's going to use Christian values to, well, not just Christian values. He's also going to use teachings and methods from Mahatma Gandhi to spur the civil rights movement. And he uses something called civil disobedience. Now, civil disobedience, it's not breaking the law. It is just stepping out of everyday norms, right? It's not doing what society necessarily tells you to be to be disruptive. You're not breaking the law. You're not hurting anybody. You're just being disruptive. Now, we think about this. What would civil disobedience look like? So, if we wanted better lunch at school, how do you do that? You stop buying lunch from school. And how is that civil disobedience, you ask, Mr. K? Well, you're not breaking the law. You're not doing anything wrong. You're simply not doing anything. And how do we impact change quickly? Impact somebody's money. If every single one of our schools, so that's, let's say, 2,000 people for the sake of simplicity, 2,000 students who every day in the cafeteria spend $5 each. Well, 2,000 times 5, my math is okay, and it's probably not, and some troll will probably tell me I'm wrong. That's about 10 grand a day. It's 5 days a week. That's 50 grand a week. That's $200,000 a month. We have 10 months of school. Whatever 200,000 times 10 is 2 million. Math. Anyway, so if you do that and you impact somebody's pocketbooks, what are they going to do? Well, they're going to react in kind. They will try to fix it. And this is really what Martin Luther King's civil disobedience is. Let's disrupt to change. Okay, and that's really this movement that he's doing. Now, there's a bunch of different groups that Martin Luther King will kind of be involved in. Obviously, the NAACP is a pretty big deal, but there's two groups. One is known as SNCC, that's SNCC, and CORE, CORE. Now 1960, the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee, that's SNCC, and the Congress of Racial Equality, that's CORE, they create a voice for young people. Remarkably enough, anytime that there's some type of civil progressivism, progressiveness, It comes from young people, not 12-year-olds or anything. Typically, college students. College students are the ones that usually have the loudest voice. And now, Core and Snick, they both begin as an interracial group, so whites, blacks, Hispanics, whatever. Um, they're going to make up these groups. And 200 of them are sitting here telling adults, they're telling you leaders, saying, stop being lazy, stop living in the past, stop doing what you guys have done since the end of the Civil War 100 years ago and change something. Do it, change it, because life sucks for minorities, and it's up to you because you are elected officials, you are the ones who vote, change it. They want immediate change, not gradual change. And that's really true with young people, right? Instant gratification. I want it now. I want it to change now. We look at our own healthcare system, right? Right today in present day, we want it changed now. It's an amazing thing. Because young people do have a voice. Believe me, they do. Now, one of these great things that Snick and Core would be a part of, and it's this nonviolent, civil disobedient type of protest, are things called sit ins. Now, these are used as early as 1943. Um, the first one is at Jack Sprat Coffee House in Chicago. It's just a technique of occupying a business and just sitting there, not buying anything, just sitting there. Now, could you get kicked out for trespassing? Probably. But when there's a lot of you, it's really hard to arrest every single person. And this does become effective. In the 1960s, as the civil rights movement really starts to heat up, this form of protest becomes very, very, very popular because it does force businesses to decide either are they going to serve these people that are doing these sit ins or lose business, right? I'm going to go in, I'm going to sit here, I'm going to try to offer or order food, order drinks. Um, but the sign above your door says whites only. Well, you have 100 or so African Americans occupying the place. They refuse to serve them. Okay, well, we've taken up all your seats, all of your standing room. So you're either going to serve us or you're going to lose money. That's a sit-in, and super successful. In fact, by the end of 1960, up to 70,000 students would participate in some type of sit-in. Now, 3,600 of them would serve jail time, but Martin Luther King even said, even though he's like this, don't break the law, don't do anything wrong. He's like, yeah, guys, being arrested for doing a sit-in and doing something to better our country, wear it as a badge of honor. So the sit-ins are effective. Now, this is happening in the South, but eventually it starts to gain traction. And the president of the United States at the time, John F. Kennedy, who is also dealing with the Cold War issues, Bay of Pigs and all that fun stuff, the Cuban Missile Crisis, JFK is really torn between his political party and his ideological beliefs. Now you ask, okay, why is his political party a hardship for him? Well, he's a Democrat. And in the 1960s, who are make up the South? Democrats. We refer to them as Southern Democrats. And these people are the ones who don't want change. They're the ones that enforce Jim Crow laws, and they don't want blacks to be equal, to put it short. But he does believe in equal rights. Kennedy's like, no, this is wrong. And Kennedy's a good dude. He's a good president. Now, he decides, okay, we're going to enforce the existing laws. We're not going to necessarily create new ones. It does maintain most of the Jim Crow laws, and so it keeps the Southern Democrats happy. Now he does address civil rights kind of on a case by case issue. He can't just do this whole sweeping thing where no, everything is fine now. Jim Crow's gone and segregation, desegregation everywhere. He can't do that. He can't. And it's obvious as to why, right? He can't just do this big sweeping legislation and end all the issues because his party will be like, yeah, we're not going to elect you again. So instead, he goes case by case. Um, really, the ones he really only says, okay, this one became violent. Let's take a look at it. Look at it. So he's just dipping his toes in the water as far as civil rights. Now, he does eventually kind of break away from his party in 1963 and try to help aid in the civil rights movement. It's not super successful, and we'll get into as to why later on. It just doesn't really work out for him. But it is good to see that the president is stepping up and going, look, even though my party disagrees with me on these things, I'm not going to step on their toes, but I'm going to try to change things. So that's what JFK is doing. A lot of activists, a lot of people who are in the civil rights movement look at Kennedy and go, dude, this you're just not committing. Either be all in or all out. Don't be halfway. So they're looking at it like, dude, you're trying to balance your party loyalty with civil rights activism, and you just can't because your party is racist. Your party is the racist Democrats of the South. You can't have that and you have civil rights in the same thing. So, poop or get off the pot. So he actually ends up losing both support from the Democratic Party because he's stepping up doing this, but he's also losing respect from civil rights leaders because he's not doing enough. He can't win. Now, Kennedy is remembered as one of the great president, but it's one of those things that, at the time, some loved him, some hated him, some left him, some came to him. It was really, really interesting to see. So, as we move forward, we talked about 1963, and that's kind of a big year. In Birmingham, Alabama, Martin Luther King is invited to join a protest in Birmingham. Now, Birmingham is like the most segregated city in America. It is the most racist, segregated, crap is not fair kind of city in America at that time. So he goes there and he's like, okay, we are going to have a few boycotts. So he gets a group together and he organizes with a local reverend. His name's Fred Shuttlesworth. I, and it's like, hey, let's do this. Let's have a march. Let's protest and then we'll have a march. So they do. They do some sit ins and then they decide we're going to march from this church to the state capitol and we're gonna do it, right? Well, city officials say, yeah, these marches and protests that you're doing are illegal. You need to have a permit to have a parade. Like, we're not having a parade, we're marching. They go, oh, no, it's a parade. So they say, you need to stop marching. And King's like, yeah, no, not gonna stop marching. Not doing that. And in turn, he's arrested. Now, this is actually a pretty big deal. Now, Martin Luther King comes out. He's doing these marches, and the national media is there because this is a big deal. And so television cameras are capturing all of this stuff, including the very, very violent scenes coming from the police to the protesters. They're being nailed with like fire hoses. They're having dogs out on them. They're being beaten by cops. It is not a pretty sight. It is terrible. But the nation gets to see this. And people that are like, no, we don't want to desegregate, are like, dude, that's messed up. I don't care who you are. Like, you don't treat people this way. And so again, the civil rights movement is moving forward in the right direction. So in the end, yeah, these marches may have been shut down, but the protesters inevitably win. And eventually, the Assistant Attorney General, Burke Marshall, uh, decides, hey, we're going to desegregate this city because this is just sick and wrong. And so other cities outside of Birmingham, other cities in the South see this and like, you know what? We can do this. We can protest too and help the change speed up, not just in one spot. After Birmingham happens, Kennedy decides, hey, you know what? We got to do something. And this is that civil rights bill that he put up there. Really, he wants to do something. The nation is crying for change, and so he comes up with his civil rights bill. And it's legislation that gives access to public facilities, voting rights, and monetary support to desegregate. It's put to a vote, Congress, and they say, nope, it does not pass. Why doesn't it pass? Well, because even if it's 50-50, you have to have a majority to pass the House. And there's not. Even if it's 50-50, the Southern Democrats are never going to vote for it. And those in the North who support the Southern Democrats aren't going to vote for it. Like I said, 90% of Congress was not okay with desegregating schools. So, what's to make you say that they would pass a civil rights bill? So JFK actually fails at this, um, and we'll kind of see because it eventually passes, but not with JFK. And we're going to talk about that later. So that's it for this video, guys. Hopefully, you guys are seeing how the civil rights movement is progressing in the United States. Remember, the Cold War is still going on, so there's a lot of stuff going on in the United States that is a little bit of an issue. So we'll pick this up next time. Until then, hopefully, you guys enjoyed my videos. I'm enjoying doing them. Heck, who knows? Maybe I'll just keep doing this and sit at my desk all day and make you guys watch my videos. But probably not because I like talking to you guys. Have a good one. Hopefully, see you guys soon. Take care.